How many of you, when sitting in audiences, have on occasions found it difficult to stay awake? This looks like 100%. This is the kind of result that researchers revel in. We don't go for 33% or anything like that. We all know that making speeches, making presentations, has a tremendous capacity to bore audiences out of their skulls. And it was that interest in keeping audiences awake that first got me interested in applause. That there is effectively a language of public speaking, a language that is slightly different from two other forms of communication that we are all much more familiar with. The first is the language of everyday conversation, the kind of talk that was taking place a few moments ago over coffee. And the second is the language of the written word. So that part of the key to good speech writing is to understand what those differences are and what the techniques are that will help to keep audiences awake and alert. I don't want to say too much about that, but some of it does bear on what I'm going to be showing you. On conversation, which is the commonest form of human communication, and the study of which is where I started, the important thing to realise is, well, let's just have another show of hands. How many of you, in the conversations you just had in the last 15 minutes, how many of you have had trouble staying awake? If the result is 0%, it's a normal finding. We don't have much trouble staying awake in conversation, even when the person we're speaking to is utterly bored. My late father-in-law was probably the most boring man in the world, and I couldn't figure out why it was that I managed to stay awake when I was talking to him. The reason was because you get into trouble if you don't. Silences in conversation mean trouble. Silences in speeches don't.